Today we have a special treat. I'm going to, in real time, try to help my friend Jack, who unfortunately had a bike crash yesterday, wrecked his front wheel. So I'll introduce you to Jack and we'll have a look at his wheel and we'll work on the wheel together. I'll talk you through it, show you what I'm looking for and how we fix a wheel like this. That's what's coming right up.
Hey, how's it going, Jim?
Hey, morning, Jack. I got your text and I understand you had some kind of a crash or something?
I've got a Ironman 70.3 in Oceanside this coming Saturday, and I was doing just the last workout on my bike, just a quick little thing. I was going super slow. I did a little U-turn, and this guy coming up behind me on a bike just T-boned me.
Wow.
So,
that's
yeah, so he totally took me out. I think, knees a little swollen, and the front wheel, it won't turn.
Wow.
So,
okay.
yeah.
Well, let's take a quick look at the front wheel.
Okay. Well, hey, let me tell you what. I brought you some beers as a little gift.
Wow, no way.
Yeah. I've got a non-alcoholic one, which is pretty popular right now. And then I also bought you a Belgian beer.
Nice.
Yep, in celebration of Flanders cycling season.
You're a good man, Jack.
The classics, they're on. So these are for you.
Yeah, we've been watching them. Okay, well, let's take a look at that front wheel. Oh, yeah, it's rubbing on the brake here on this side. And then it's got a big wow on this side, so you sort of have the classic potato chip or taco. Sometimes they say you sort of tacoed or potato chipped the wheel. The good news is it's not so bad that it's hitting the fork. It's just hitting the brake. So if you were riding and you had to get home with something like this, you could just let out you've already opened the brake quick release, but you could loosen the anchor bolt, the cable pinch bolt, and disconnect the front brake and you could have got home. But you certainly don't want to race on this. So what we'll do is we'll look at it. We could actually try to fix it right in the frame, but if we do that, it's going to be hard to see what I'm doing. So I think we'll do it in a truing stand, because here it's kind of hard to see. We could do it, but the interesting thing is there's no loose spokes, so no spokes loosened up. So it tells you it was a pretty good impact, and it actually, the impact bent the rim, basically, which is, it's a carbon rim, so it can't really bend. So we'll see if we can adjust some spokes and get it to go straight again, which would be the best case scenario. So we'll put it in the truing stand. We give the wheel a spin, maybe you could see. I don't know if you can see the wobble or not. Should be pretty noticeable. A little bit, yeah. You'll see it when we put it in the stand, the truing stand.
Yep. There it is.
Can you see it?
Yep.
So I'm gonna set the truing stand up for the wheel, and we'll spin the wheel, and we look at it. It's got a pretty good wow that way, and a pretty good wow this way too. So this wheel has glued-on tires. They're sew-ups or tubular tires. So we could ordinarily, if it was a clincher tire or a tubeless tire, it'd be easy to take the tire off. But with this tire, if we take it off, we're going to have to re-glue it. So we're going to fix it without taking the tire off. And that makes it a little harder to see the wobble in the rim. If I bring the indicators in, even if you can't see it, you can hear it. It hits on the left and it hits on the right. And if you look on the side, you can see here that it might have hit something or scratched. Some type of impact, probably from the other bike, or maybe it happened when the bike laid down and hit the ground. Yeah, those marks aren't on the other side, so I think it must have hit the ground. Did you slide down the ground, Jack?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can go around a wheel like this and you can wiggle the spokes with your hands. Start at the valve and you try each spoke, because an impact might create a loose spoke. And if it created a loose spoke or loose spokes, an easy solution might be just tightening the loose spokes. But we don't have any loose spokes, they're all tight. So our best option is to try to straighten the wheel with the spokes. Since they're all tight, what we're going to do is loosen spokes. So right here we've got the big wow. So it starts about here, one, and you'll hear it rubbing. So it's rubbing, 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 not rubbing. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 approximately, 5 spokes in the affected area. So what we want to do is try to get the wheel to move this way and stop the rubbing. So there's 3 spokes on that side of the wheel. See how this is the left side? These are the left side spokes. We want the wheel to move to the right to get it to stop rubbing. So to get it to move to the right and stop rubbing, we're going to loosen these 3 spokes a little bit. We're going to start with very small turns because we don't really want to make these spokes super loose. We just want to get the wheel to go straight. Now if we're lucky, we'll be able to turn the spoke nipples, actually aluminum nipples. You have to be careful. You could strip an aluminum nipple. Then you would have to peel the tire off at least where the nipple is to put a new nipple in. So those are the 3 spokes. I just turned them a little bit. Let's see if anything changed. So already it's getting a little better. Not much, but a little bit. It made more sound before. So now, 1, 2, 3. Remember before it was almost over 5? So we've made it a little better already. So let's continue on those 3 spokes. Now if you're doing this for the first time, you could mark these 3 spokes so that you could remember which 3 spokes you were working on. You could put a little piece of tape on them, or another easy way to mark them is to take a silver or a gold Sharpie and just put a little mark on the spoke so that you can remember which ones you're working on, so you don't get lost on what you're doing. The mistakes people make true in wheels is they turn the wrong spoke. They move the nipple too much. You go a little bit at a time, check, and then do a little more. So that noise you hear is on the right side now. On the left side, it's getting better. And when you do this, you hold on to the spoke so that you know. So I'm resting my fingers on the spoke, and when I turn the nipple, I don't want the spoke to turn with the nipple. I just want the nipple to turn. You can feel if the spoke starts twisting. And if you paint the spoke, you can or put a Sharpie, a marker on it, or even a piece of tape on it. If the spoke turns, you'll see that it's turning. You don't want the spoke to turn because you're not actually loosening it if it turns with the nipple. So we've improved the left a little bit, but I'm going to start working on the right now. And then we'll come back to the left, because the right obviously needs even more attention than the left. Bigger area over here. So it starts about here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6. So it's a little bigger than the other one. So here again, we've got 3 spokes to work with. We can work with. So I'm going to start with the middle one. We'll turn it a full half a turn. We'll come over here. Here again, I'm working on the spokes on the right. It's hard to see whether you're on the right or the left if you look here. But if you look here, you can see whether you're on the right or left. And then you see that you're on the right spoke, and you just follow it up to the rim, and then you know that you're on a left spoke. You look, that's left side. That has to be a left side spoke. So tightening the left side spoke will move the rim this way. Loosening the left side spoke will let the rim move this way. So we improved it a lot already. See, I just almost made a mistake and turned the wrong spoke. This is on the left side. I wanted to turn this spoke. This is on the right side. We're loosening now. Loosening means counterclockwise. If you look at the spoke wrench, we turn it counterclockwise. Look at that. a little better. But once you make a slight improvement, you move the indicators on the truing stand in, you make it sing again, and this is a pretty significant wobble, so we're gonna loosen a little more. Now you see I got the noise to go away. So now, but you can, it's still wobbly. It's still not the way we want it. We'd like to get as much wobble out of it as we can. If this was a race situation or a long ride situation, we want to get the athlete back on the course right away. We may not want to fuss around and get it perfect. We might just want to get it so we can get going again and finish the ride. In a race situation, they'd usually have a spare wheel they'd throw on. It wouldn't be a nice Aero wheel like this. On a triathlon, you basically don't have that kind of support. So what I'm going to do is turn the indicators until it rubs again. And then we're going to keep working on the wobble, little by little. We're going to try to get it where we're happy with it. Fixing wheels is trial and error. You make little adjustments. If you don't get it right, you make more little adjustments. It takes patience. It's super fun, but it's not easy to do if you're in a hurry, you don't have time, you got more important things you have to do. You don't want to give the wheel time. It takes time. Even for a good expert, it takes time. So we've really narrowed this down significantly, but we're going to keep working on it. I work really carefully with the alloy nipples, aluminum nipples, because you can round them pretty easily. You've got to remember the wheel was laced up, the wheel was trued and tensioned who knows how many times. And each time that aluminum gets more wear and tear from the steel spoke wrench. So you got to go careful when you're trying to fix a wheel. And even if you work as carefully as you can, sometimes you still strip or round a nipple, which in this case you want to try for that not to happen because of the tire being glued on. So we're not perfect, but we're getting way better. Now a wheel like this that's been traumatized by a hard crash, you know, two bikes going 15, 20 miles an hour hit each other, that's a 40-mile-per-hour crash. That's a lot for a super lightweight Aero carbon rim to survive. So it might be too much to ask that we have a perfect wheel. But you don't need perfect. You can't feel a wheel if it's a wobble, if it's, you know, even like a 2mm, 3mm wobble, you're not going to feel it. You might feel it when you hit the brakes, but you shouldn't feel it when you're riding down the road. Each little adjustment, it gets a little better. So you can see it's not perfect, but compared to where we were before, it's pretty good. We had about I would say about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch wobble on both sides. And now it's down to maybe 1/4 inch, or a little less, 3mm maybe. If we could see the other side. Yeah, it's more than that. It's probably 4mm. But it's way better. You could totally ride on this. We can also look at the roundness of the wheel. With the tire off, it's easier to see. But if we put the little round part right on the edge of the rim, right here, and if we spin the wheel, watch the edge and see if it goes up and down much. Hardly any out of roundness, so that's a good thing. I would expect that from a high-profile carbon rim. It's almost no hop. Nothing we need to worry about anyway. And we still have a little wobble, but it's not a major issue like it was. But we'll keep messing with it a little bit and see if we can get it a little better. So at this point, it's hard to see black on black, the black tip, the black indicator, the black tire, and the black rim. So sometimes if you listen to it, it's a better way to true it. So if you listen, there's a rub, 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 rub 3 times. 1, 2, 3. No, it's 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. So we'll come over here and we'll see if we can get rid of the quiet one. That's a loud one. So we'll see if we can get rid of that one. Now this side is really good. So now we have this side down to about 1 millimeter. We'll go over to this side, look at it. It's pretty darn good now. But I'm going to keep going. At this point, I would say we've got the wheel as round as we're going to get it. The other thing I want to point out is that by adjusting the spokes, you can make the wheel go off center. If the wheel's off center in the frame, it could make the bike ride a little funny, and it could make it hard to keep the brakes centered. So with a park truing stand, the wheel is centered in the pointers. So as long as there's an equal gap on either side, which there is, you know that you didn't knock the wheel off center one way or the other. So the wheel's good centered, and the wheel's good side to side. So since we've gone around and loosened some spokes, we want to make sure that the spokes, we haven't made them too loose. So for that, I have a special tool, a spoke tensionometer. I have another video about spoke tensionometers that I just put up. I'll link to that in the description. But we'll put a spoke tensionometer on here, and we'll see what we have for tension around the wheel. If we loosen it up significantly, remember now I just turned the spokes a little bit, the nipples a little bit. I tried not to go crazy and loosen it too much. This is a nice tool. Lets me check the spoke tension. So we'll go around and we'll check the spoke tension on them. Make sure that they're not too loose. So that's giving me a reading of 73. I'm just going to go around one side. You don't have to check both sides. Checking two spokes, I can tell you they're on the loose side. That spoke is 46, which is more like what we're hoping to see. The 46 is just a reference number, but it means that the spokes are probably about 80 kgf is what we call it, kilograms of force. Let's see, some are much looser. 94 means it's much looser. 62, that's not bad. When this wheel was built, they were probably 35, 63, 83. So the combination of the crash, 56, that's kind of in the ballpark of what you'd expect to see, 35 to 50 if the wheel was brand new. Yeah, so, oh, one more, 54. So some of these are actually pretty close. So I'm going to go around and try to put some pressure on the spokes, called stress relieving. We turn some of them, we move them around. So I'm going to squeeze the spokes, go around and alternate squeezing different pairs of spokes, called stress relieving. If the spokes were affected by the truing, they might ping or pop, but you want the wheel to be stable when you're riding it, Jack. This is going to look like I'm being aggressive, but I'm not pushing down that hard. I'm going to put it on the floor, start at the valve stem, and we'll put a little pressure, lateral pressure on the wheel. What we're trying to do is simulate what's going to happen when you ride down the road. You don't want it to go out of true. We do it on one side, and we do it on the other side. We're trying to basically stabilize the wheel because it had the impact. And then I messed around with it a whole lot in the truing stand. So now we've stress relieved the wheel, put a lot of force on it, and we're hoping that the truing that we did to the wheel didn't get messed up when we stress relieved it, when we squeezed the spokes and bounced on a little bit on the ground. Simulate what's going to happen when you're racing it down the road. And it didn't change it at all. So that's a really good thing. So now we have to decide, are we going to try to tighten these spokes, or are we going to let the wheel go the way it is? And if we try to tighten the spokes, we could even the tension around the wheel, but we might strip the aluminum nipple. And if we strip the aluminum nipple, we're going to have to take the tire off to put a new nipple in, or part of the tire off. So it's always a gamble, and it's hard to decide what to do. When I was working on this wheel, I could tell that some of the nipples were a little bit worn or a little bit used, basically, because they've been built and worked on a bunch of times. So I'm going to make a judgment call based on what they feel like. Don't want any loose spokes. So what I'm going to do is go around and just try to tighten them ever so slightly, just a little bit. So maybe a half a turn per nipple. Now, to do this, this wheel has Aero spokes. So to do it right, you use an Aero spoke holder. It's all nylon. It's a nice tool. It won't hurt the spokes. So you come in here like this, and then Park even has a special tool for doing this job. See how it's small and it fits underneath? You can come in, pick the right one. You see what I mean? The spoke fits on one side of the nipple, but not the other side of the nipple, which tells you that the nipple is a little tired. So we're going to hold the Aero spoke so that it's Aero, and then we're going to tighten the nipple a little bit. If the spoke rotates, so right now my spoke holder moved a little bit. So what we'll do is we'll move both of them together until we get the spoke lined up again. You want the Aero, the edge of the spoke facing forward. So now we'll repeat on the next one. This is just like the other one. The nipple's not happy. You want to put this tool close to the top of the Aero section. Up here it's round. Here it's Aero. We want to try to keep the spoke from turning when we turn the nipple. So we turn the nipple a little bit. This would be a lot easier if the spokes weren't a little distorted from all the time they've been turned. So now we made a little adjustment. That's a little tighter. Now we're going to go to the next spoke. See how it doesn't fit on there? Sometimes we have to force it on. There we go. If the spoke is Aero, this tool should be 90 degrees to the wheel. That's what we're looking at. That's what I'm looking at when I'm doing this. And I hold the tool and then I can turn the nipple. And notice I don't go crazy and make the nipple turn too fast. I go sort of slow. Remember, it's aluminum. I don't want it to round. Okay, now we'll go to the next one. With new nipples, this is much faster. There we go. I had to force it on there. I'm basically turning the nipple not quite a half a turn. I'm trying to make them all turn them about the same distance because I'm trying to add a little tension all the way around the wheel. I'm not trying to add a lot of tension, just a little tension. You can add just a little tension after something like this, traumatic incident to this wheel. It could just make it a stronger wheel, a wheel that holds up versus a wheel that gets loose again. If it gets loose again, we might have to rebuild it. If we did that, the tire would come off, we'd put new nipples on. It's a little fussy, but Aero spokes, you have to be fussy unless you don't want them to be Aero. There it is. The reason you use this skinny little wrench is so that you can hold up close to the end of the spoke. Otherwise, sometimes it'll twist. If you held it down here, it might twist in here. Or if you hold it up here, it's not going to twist. So let's see if we can get this last one. There we go. You just need a little half a turn or so. It's actually a quarter turn, probably. It's more like it. But any little amount of tension we can add can help. Okay, that was a bit of an ordeal, but it always is. Now if we look at the wheel, I'm hoping you didn't change it too much. Sometimes when you go around and tension a whole wheel, it'll change a lot, but it's pretty good. We didn't mess it up that much. We have one little wobble right there. Right at the valve stem. So, and we'll tighten that spoke. Before, when we started, I was loosening spokes, but now I'm trying to finish the job and I'm tightening spokes. So, see how we did? Pretty darn good. You can't expect it to be perfect. When a wheel's been hit hard, it's probably not going to be perfect. Because it was traumatized. We're lucky because this is a carbon rim. They're hollow inside. We could have dents in this rim. I've seen that before where you have a dent in a rim. It's like a dent in a plastic bumper or something. So we're going to call this done. I'm going to go around. I'm going to feel the spokes. I'm not going to put a spoke tensionometer on it again because I know these spokes aren't up to like critical tension, but this is a front wheel. It doesn't take the abuse that a rear wheel takes. They're tight enough. It should be good. It's a deep dish carbon rim. It's not a little skinny rim, so you get some support from the deep dish. So it should be a good wheel going down the road, even though it got hit. But I am going to stress relieve it one more time on the ground here. I want to make sure when Jack's riding it and the weight is on the wheel, there isn't any chance that it goes out of true. So I simulate what might happen if he goes around a corner hard or stands up to climb a hill. I put a little lateral pressure. That's the thing that causes problems. So after the season, what we'll probably do is at some point we can take the tire off, take all the old nipples off, put on new nipples. So we're going to put it back in here. We'll look one more time, see if the stress relieving changed anything. And it's pretty stable now. We've got a race ready wheel. It's not perfect, definitely been damaged, been an accident, but this is a pretty straight, true wheel still. And we'll put it in the bike and take a look and check that front brake. Okay, so we're gonna put the wheel in. We're gonna see if it spins true in the frame.
Do we need to put the brake lever down or not yet?
Yeah, we don't have the quick release shot yet, but you could see, I wanted there to be enough of a gap so you could actually see what it is. So now we'll close the quick release on the brake. And even with the quick release shot, we've got no rubbing. So the other thing to check is the centering of the wheel in the frame, which can be hard to see. But it's pretty spot on. So Jack, what do you think?
Well, I'm feeling a lot better now than I did when I brought this in.
Yeah, it would have been expensive to replace the wheel.
And a whole lot better than as I was going down, and the first thing I was thinking about was my bike even before I hit the ground.
Yeah. The race is Saturday?
The race is Saturday and it's Wednesday today.
Yeah, that's not
I'm gonna
a lot
have
of
to drive
time.
tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm glad. So, you think your knee's okay? You could ride it down the street and just see what it feels like?
Yeah, I can ride it down the street and see what it feels like.
I want you to put some pressure on it. Just I don't want you to sprint or hurt yourself.
No.
But I would like you to ride it. But first thing we're going to do is we'll get those brake levers back where they belong.
Okay.
Because they moved off center a little bit, and usually we can just push them back. Usually they're not so tight that you can't move them. So we'll see if we can do that. You could just give them a little push. See, that's the way you want them. Because if you were to crash in a race, you don't want them to break if you fall down. You want them to move. So they did what they were supposed to do. These are expensive and it's a pain to put them on. So they moved out of position. Basically just look for an ergonomic position, something that makes sense for your wrist. So look at this one over here. See how that one's all jacked? That's a pun. It's jacked. See how it's really crooked compared to the other one. So this one will be a little more gentle, but this one will move too. See how it moves? So now it's now they're straight, and camera makes them look a little crooked, but now they're straight and ergonomically positioned. The other thing we're going to do is we'll straighten your stem. I don't want to loosen them a lot. I just want to This bolt right here basically tightens on your top cap and keeps your headset adjustment to bearings, and that's good. There's no rattling, it's not loose. So all we want to do is loosen these enough so that it turns. And then we should be able to center this guy. See how it was off to the side. It's all good because in a crash, if stuff is so tight that a major impact like that doesn't move it, then stuff breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if your fork had broke, oh, that would have been awful. So I like to come around here and look at it from the rider's perspective. It's pretty darn close. So I'm gonna snug this back up again. It says right on it 6 Newton meters, so we'll give it 6 Newton meters. Go back and forth from one to the other. And now we'll check it with a proper torque wrench. We're close. There it is. We're close enough. So there you go. Okay. You got all the toys, Jack. This a bento box? That's what we used to call them.
That's what I call them.
Yeah.
That came with the bike.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, we have a bigger problem, Jack. Look at that. The chain ring got bent. Right there. Big wow. Okay, well, we'll have to see if we can fix it. The problem is, best I can tell, the whole thing's bent, not just the chain ring.
Uh-huh.
So if you were to buy a new chain ring,
Uh-huh.
I don't think you'd fix it, because right here between the
Yeah.
chain and the
Yeah.
chain ring, and as I turn it around where the bend is,
Yeah.
the gap is completely gone, which
Yeah.
tells me that I can't really fix it. But look what we got right here.
What?
You can borrow that till you can get another one. I went ahead and replaced Jack's crash crank with the one I showed earlier hanging on the hook over my workbench. It's an exact fit, so it was easy to remove the old crank and put the new Shimano crank in. And right now I'm just running through the gears. We didn't actually capture the video because the camera battery ran out. Sorry about that. Okay, so you're going to have a slightly higher gear than you had before.
Uh-huh.
But you're not going to worry about it. It's going to go faster because of it. Bigger gear means faster, more speed. Put a little cable end on here so it doesn't fray. We're going to cut a little shorter so it doesn't go into the tire like it was. I'm just going to go in here. We're going to put 3 little marks on there. Boom. Racing stripes make you faster. 1, 2, 3. Make sure that's tight. And this one's still already got one. Check a couple things. Make sure there's no play here. Make sure this is tight. That's tight. Make sure this is tight. That's still tight. Make sure these are tight. The old crank. I want you to ride it up and down the street. Watch out for people making U-turns.
Yep.
And see how it feels. Shift it.
Okay.
Operate the brakes. If the front wheel makes a pinging noise or anything, that's just a spoke that realizes, hey, I got moved. But I bet it doesn't make any noise because we stress relieved it.
Okay.
I want you to be a little careful because it's possible there's some issue we didn't find from the crash. But just go easy and just see if it feels okay. How's it feel?
It feels good. It feels good so far.
You hit the brakes and shift a bit.
Yeah, it's braking well.
But you never know with crash damage, and we had to do some things I didn't think we were going to have to do, Jack, but I think we have the front wheel straight. We've replaced that crank with a earlier model Durace crank, but it shifts fine. It worked okay when you rode down the road.
It did. It was great.
Yeah, well, that's good. So the race is this weekend. I hope you have a great race. How far is the bike leg?
Well, the bike leg is about 55 miles.
Oh, wow. So it's a half Ironman.
Yeah, it's a half Ironman.
Yeah, so that's a good one. Well, I think you'll have a great time on the bike.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Jim. Yeah, thanks for fixing it up.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Let me know how it goes.
I will. Yeah.
Okay, that's a wrap.